Food is more than just what's on our plate. It's the places where it's grown, it's the people who grow it, and so much more. Join me, Janice Person, your host, on Grounded by the Farm every other week as we talk about the foods we love. In our most recent episode, we talked about agritourism and really dug into the farm stays. There are so many ways to learn about farming and our foods that I wanted to go ahead and get this episode next. We're with a family that have dairy farmed and stuff for generations. Let's go ahead and dive right in. We're in, is this considered the hills of Virginia?
We're called the Piedmont.
The Piedmont. Okay, thank you very much. We are not far from D.C. I was very shocked as many times as I've been to D.C. and I knew farms weren't very far. I had never driven out to one in Virginia I went out past the Dulles Airport probably an hour and a half. I was in gorgeous farmland, and we are talking to Patty Leonard. She and her family have been in this area of Virginia for a very long time, and I'm going to make her explain it because the topic we're discussing today is really talking about farms and urbanization and sort of how those things sometimes work really well together and sometimes there's a bit of a conflict. So, Patty, where did your family get started farming in Virginia?
My family, on my side, actually, my grandparents had a dairy farm on Route 50 in Chantilly. And in 1960-61, when Dulles Airport was coming about and being built, they said it was time to move to the country. So they knew that it was going to be grown up and that with all the construction, everything. So they started looking, and so they came to Warrenton. Now, Warrenton is only 45 miles from the White House as the crow flies.
The traffic makes it take a lot longer.
I was going to say, when you said you were an hour and a half, it's not by miles, it's by traffic.
Exactly. I did learn that really fast. The mileage versus the time is different than it is in, say, the middle of the country where I live. Your family, I know you've had a dairy farm. Were your parents doing dairy in the Dulles area?
Yes, my grandparents had a dairy farm on Route 50, and at that time they did make the decision to sell out, but their roots was in dairy, so they moved to Warrenton, and my grandfather, with his connections, continued to haul cattle and was a small cattle dealer, would help make some connections, as well as this farm had about 220 acres, so they switched over to a small beef herd, but they still had maybe 3 to 6 dairy cows that they either milked for the house or raised small veal calves off of.
Yeah.
So the dairy connection was always there. So we moved to Warrenton, and there was 4 generations. I wish I could show a picture, but there was 4 generations in that house. My great-grandfather, my grandparents on my mother's side, my mother and father, and my brother and I. Now, with the dairy influence, my mom had been a product of the 4-H program and the Holstein program. She wanted us to be involved in 4-H. Mm-hmm. So to do that, what we did is we would go and buy heifer calves, raise them until they were 2 years of age, ready to produce, sell them either in consignment sales or privately to dairymen, take the money, reinvest it. While we were doing that and raising the heifers, we'd also go to about 10 shows. So we got to meet everybody up and down the East Coast, from the Maryland State Fair to the North Carolina State Fair.
Now, I had somebody ask me again this past week about livestock shows.
Okay.
And what is it that you're showing and doing?
Livestock shows were originally meant for a learning activity for the farmer so that they could compare the animals that they had with other animals. And this was a learning opportunity. And so now it's a beauty pageant for cows, but really, because they're judging the leg conformation, the back conformation, and they're judging them on their physical appearance. But it's also a way for the farmers to get off the farm and make a connection.
And I think one of the things is it helps them find other people that are interested in the same breeds and things like that. So you may do some nice breeding activity between your herds or things along that line, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And there's actually, I wish I could think of the name. There's a book that one of the folks wrote about showing in the 1950s where they would put cattle on the rail cars and travel them to Chicago and to New York. And these were the big carnation herds and the big herds. But what they were doing is they were trying to sell their bulls.
Oh, okay.
So they would have these females, and they would show the females and say these were products of the bulls, and so that's how they were marketing their females and males. That's the way you did it.
I'm sorry I got us totally off track,
Yes.
but knowing that I remember when I learned about livestock shows and things, it seemed like a great chance to put that information in here, because I do think it's a very strange pastime if you've never been around livestock. Like, why would you show them?
Yeah, to get your cow and give her a haircut and a pedicure and
hairspray
Yeah. And glue and get her looking as pretty, and you train her to stand a particular way. Like I said, it's the Miss USA all over again.
The scholarships are incredible.
Yeah.
So, and also in the background, you may be hearing farm noises between some wild sounding birds right now to four-wheeler now and then. We're doing this outside, and you're going to see pictures on the website. So you'll notice how beautiful their farm is. So you've kind of moved your farm when your grandparents moved the farm. And now we were talking, this isn't the location you used to farm. So how many farms did you have in this area, and how have you decided where to be and what to do?
As I said, I grew up showing dairy heifers, and I got involved in dairy. Well, it just so happened there was a guy 9 miles down the road I met at a show. And so when I married my husband, he got me and 10 cows. So we moved to his farm where they were already milking with his father and his brother. Eventually, we reached milking about 325, and we farmed about 2,500 acres.
Yeah.
So we were dairy farmers we've been married 39 years, and dairy fell right in line, dairy farmers. And 21 years ago, we started the Agritainment. And that was with our school tours and having people out to the farm, the whole corn maze and everything. Well, 3 years ago, we finally just kept looking at the finances and said, the dairy part is just not working out.
Yeah.
And the 2,500 acres is part owned acres and part rental or leased acres. So we were doing the whole corn and soybeans. And when we looked at some of the years and the yields, and, some years we had 9 out of 10 years we were milking cows on drought corn. And we said, we've reached the age where we've got to make a change.
Yeah. So it's interesting because Warrenton is so close to the DC metro. And if you're renting land, I assume land prices were shifting.
Yes, land prices were shifting, and we were renting from second and third generation people, absentee owners that lived in the city. They bought land as speculation, and so they had taken their earnings from, we rented from a doctor, we rented from a developer. So we were renting from people that were absentee owners, didn't even come out and see their farms every year. And they had just bought land this far out in our county as speculation.
Right. They knew ultimately the income would get here, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so at a certain point, that starts getting really complicated at how to pencil it out. So it may have penciled differently if you owned all the land.
Versus, yes.
And you were using some of the corn in some of your feed.
Correct.
I assume, right?
Right. We had tried to diversify so that we had the milk herd, we had our row crops, and then we had diversified into the Agritainment.
Yeah.
So we had tried to diversify to spread our risk.
Right. And Agritainment, so 21 years ago, that's quite a while back,
yes.
Right? So how many other farms like that were there around here that were doing that kind of thing?
There was one other corn farmer that started to that did a corn maze, and he did it as a charitable function.
Yeah.
What had happened is when my oldest daughter went to preschool, and the preschool was right across the field from the farm, the teacher said, "We want to come out for a field trip. We want to come out one day." So we said, okay. So before I knew it, when I had 3 kids in elementary school, they would go to school. "Oh, we want to come out to the farm."
And then the teachers they had last year want to come back again.
Right. And I got to the point where I was doing 500 kids, and they were sitting in my backyard, and the cats, you always want to feed snacks, and everybody's got to go to the bathrooms. I got to have my kitchen and bathroom clean for everybody. And it was like, oh my gosh, people want to do this. And then so we started hearing about corn mazes. So honest story. We went to a corn maze within an hour of us, and we got lost. My husband says, "You got to be kidding me." No joke. We went on, and then we came home, and the very next morning, we actually had a little calf get loose in our cornfield that eventually became our corn maze.
Oh, how funny.
So 2 days in a row, we're running through a cornfield.
Looking for lost things or being lost.
Yes. And so we said, okay. And we started looking into it.
Yeah.
So we opened September 1 of 2001.
Okay. And you opened with the maze on the front end?
A corn maze. We had a corn maze, a hay wagon, and a little tent and some round bales. And my daughters were selling cookies because Grandma was making cookies so that we'd have lemonade and cookies to sell. I had 2 people show up my very first day. That's all. But, of course, 9/11 happened.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody was thinking about a corn maze.
Yeah.
And at that time, there was no Facebook. We were doing advertisement on paper. So I was advertising in the Washington Post. I was advertising in the local newspaper. But, of course, everybody's attention was diverted.
Yeah.
And I can't blame them. We made it through the first year. We did have a few people that came out, a few locals that came out. And so we got ready for the next year, and we said, okay, we'll try this again. So the next year, we bought, this year, because we hadn't gotten into the pumpkin business, we bought 5,000 pumpkins. I'm all ready to go. I've got school tours. I've called and got school tours ready to go. And the DC sniper starts. And that shut down all of Northern Virginia. And we had incidents within 30 miles of us on each the north and the south, and nobody was coming out.
Yeah.
So what we did is one of my girls had a little Jersey calf born. We got the Jersey calf. We loaded it up. We loaded the pumpkins, and we visited schools and delivered pumpkins and did a PowerPoint and showed them the farm and took the calf into the school because they couldn't come outside, and did our dog and pony
Agritainment there.
Right, we took them. Then the third year, we're getting ready to open in September, and hurricane comes through, and Isabel comes through and flattens the corn maze. I actually had a radio station that sponsored us that year. I have a scarecrow with a great big glass of milk saying, "Got milk." And one day it's beautiful, and the next day the extension agent is flying over the county to do crop assessment damages, and he sends me this picture of my corn maze completely flat.
Oh, man.
Hey, but we're farmers. We keep doing it. So we said, okay, we'll do it again.
You haven't hit like 10 years in a row where it's been bad.
No. So we started 21 years ago, and we grew from 2 people coming to weekends being full to every day the month of October having school tours and being busy with schools coming all Alexandria, Stafford, anywhere from a 30 to 40 mile range they would come. we did local county Head Start, and they would bring in 400 little kids in 10 charter buses.
Wow.
So then to expand, we started doing a haunted hayride. Then in the springtime, we decided you can come to the farm in the spring, and we started shearing sheep and doing seed planting activities. So now we have a spring tour program. And then just 3 years ago, we said, okay, let's have them out for Christmas. So we take our haunted trail, we take all the creepy stuff out, put up beautiful Christmas lights, and we turn ourselves into a Hallmark movie.
I love it. I love it. It's a strange sequence of events to get you here, right? So, so from an airport being built in and knowing cattle are not going to mix really well with the plains all the time, to move you out a little bit further, then you start going, okay, wait a minute, how else can we make more money on the same amount of property? Because that's really what you were doing when you were trying to diversify. So what led you in this latest generation? Now you've got, I mean, you're so much bigger in the Agritainment stuff. How many families is it supporting for you guys? It's still a family operation.
It's still a family operation. So right now it's supporting 2.5 households.
Okay. 2.5
households. We still have 100 beef cattle. We still do some hay and some crops. We, like I said, we sold our dairy herd 3 years ago. And so, yeah, we're focused, and it's different. With the Agritainment, you're still maintaining the land, but we get to set our prices. We get to set our hours. And we have a little bit more control of our investment.
Yeah.
In what we're doing. So that is different. And again, to make the other point is, both my husband and I are 60 years old, and he's 62. But I mean, so we also said for us to grow our Agritainment, we needed to make this switch now while we still had a few more years to grow, as opposed to waiting another 5 to 10 years of milking cows and doing the Agritainment. And that is the interesting thing, especially this year. This is the first year that we've had school tours that we didn't finish up school tours at noon and then head to the field to chop corn. So my daughter would pack, I would drive the truck back and forth, hauling silage, and my husband is chopping. We would do school tours in the morning and then chop corn and fill silo from noon on. Yeah. So this is really strange for us.
This is a relaxed pace.
It is.
I didn't come out this morning because you had, 130 people?
Or more, yeah.
120 kids, 130 parents or something. Incredible, because everybody wants to come out, right?
Right.
I think it's just amazing to me how many people in an area like this haven't had a chance to go out on farms otherwise. So what's the high point for you here? What do people get really excited? Do you need to talk to these folks?
No.
We can stop.
Okay. I'm sorry, what?
Since we were totally caught off guard by a potential customer walking up and had to take a break, thought this was a good chance to remind you guys that if you have teachers, you have kids at home that you're going to be doing projects with, all those kind of things, don't forget we have materials for Grounded by the Farm education on TPT and Etsy. You can find out more about it on our website, Grounded by the Farm.
Come off the trail and come in because they're curious. This is the first year.
Oh.
So they're curious of all the things that are going on.
Oh. Well, then tell them to come back and pay money.
Yeah.
I love it. We have customers that kind of come through in the middle of our interview. That shows that things are going well here, I guess.
Yes.
But we were just saying that, you've looked to grow this for a few more years while you're still loving the farm life and doing this successfully, right? You and your husband. Is there a plan for later?
This is what we think we want to do until we're too old and feeble not to. But we know we need to build it. We need to get it to a certain level. I will have to say that the last 2 years and COVID has taught us so much about our business.
Yeah.
In that, first of all, yes, people definitely want to come out. And they have discovered outdoor venues.
They love outdoor venues.
They love outdoor.
Eating
Everything
anything,
outdoors.
Walking, hiking.
But yes, so definitely there's a market for outdoor activities, and they do want the connection to the farm. For example, we do a puppet show with a cow, and Lily the cow doesn't want to be a cow. She wants to be a chicken. So we compare and contrast the chicken and the cow. And just giving the cow facts and the chicken facts, their eyes are going, I didn't know that. That's interesting. And it reaches all ages. We have the adults that are learning, and we have the kids that are learning. The other thing is the next station is butter making.
Making butter is so cool if you've never done it.
Exactly.
I need to put directions for that on the website with this, because that is a cool thing to do.
It is. And with so many people being foodies, you introduce them to making their own butter.
Do they want to put some salt with it or not?
Right. Do you add a little bit of honey? If you're having Italian night, garlic, and all the steak butters that are out there now.
Oh, man. Yeah, they're so good.
So, but just introducing them to that concept of how simple it is and that you can do it at home. It always tickles me. This tastes just like butter.
But you've made butter, so
that's a good thing. So, but just sharing those things.
Yeah.
When we had the dairy herd, when they would see the cows, I don't know how many people that would get off our tour and say, where can I buy your milk?
Yeah.
Because they heard the stories of how we would stay up in the middle of the night with the cows, or, what do you do about this? And what do you do about this? And we would be completely transparent with them and have honest conversations with them about everything. And then they'd come away and they go, where can I get your milk? And I said, you can get my milk at the grocery store along with all my other fellow dairy farmers, because we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We're all cut out of the same cloth.
Milk is one of those local foods that nobody understands necessarily it's local. In St. Louis, we have a couple of big co-op dairies, right? So people may have heard of Cabot or Land O'Lakes, but in every region of the country, every state, there's co-ops that are doing the milk in your local grocery stores.
Exactly.
And they're all people like you. And so, and you've got a couple of Jersey calves.
Yes.
Right. So you've got a couple of calves. You've got a few goats.
We got a couple of goats, sheep, because in the springtime, we said, hey, people will come out in the spring. So we shear the sheep so that people get to see the sheep, get a haircut. And then we do a seed planting activity. And then, like I said, we do our chicken thing. But we did the goats, the chickens, the sheep, and donkeys. We had gotten a pair of donkeys, and it just so happens that the female was carrying. So we have mac and cheese, and the baby is named Noodle.
And you have totally Instagrammable moments. You've got some antique tractors that have been beautifully painted.
Yeah, those are on loan from my brother.
That's nice.
It truly is family. I mean, my brother loans us tractors. My mom still gives me stories. The grandmas don't bake cookies anymore, but it was all built with family. It's my husband. It's my son-in-law. My son-in-law's cleaning the trail. My daughter that works as a reading specialist, she comes in and helps on the weekends.
Yep.
My daughter that's in North Carolina, I called her up yesterday and said, I need a customer service response to this question. Give me some help. And she has moved, a country girl has moved to the city. So she goes, oh, Mom, you need to do this. You need to do this. We're looking at this. We're looking at this. And so we get the outside.
Yeah, my friends are amazed by this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They want to know more about this. So it's all family, but we are lucky that we have wonderful employees that are former 4-H leaders, former preschool teachers that enjoy coming out, being on the farm, doing the outdoor activities, and we've just had wonderful support. We just interviewed. We start a lot of kids with their very first job here.
Yeah.
And we've got some kids that have been with us for 10 years. I got a kid that just sent me a message. I'm home on fall break. Can I come do Haunted Hollow tonight? I said, yes, come. So the kids come back when they're in town just to jump in and scare people or whatever. But we've got kids that we started out.
Yeah.
And they went on, other kids went on. We had 2 yesterday that were state FFA officers, but they had come through Cows and Corn, and we think we had just a little bit of influence and helped them get started.
Well, that was Cows and Corn was the last farm. When you moved over here, you took the name of this location, right?
Maple Tree.
Yeah.
Now, well, and I'll tell you a little story about that. There is a creek or a run behind us called Turkey Run Farm. My grandparents always called it Turkey Run Farm. But coming in the driveway when I was a kid, maple trees lined each side. For a while, my brother operated the farm when my grandparents had given it up, and to get a different name to do business under, he named it Maple Tree. So I still call it Turkey Run, but when I was talking to the girls, I said, okay, what are we going to name this? And my girls said, Mom, do you really, if we end up having a wedding here, do you really think they want to say we're getting married at Turkey Run Farm or Maple Tree Farm?
Yeah,
it's all in marketing.
I love it. It's really beautiful. So I shot a little bit of video and stuff, so we'll put that up on the website too, and make sure we connect over to your website, because I know
great.
you guys have a little bit there. Y'all also have some games and stuff, I think, that people can do with their kids and learn a little bit. You've got some of that information. It's not the same as being here and being able to bring your kids out, but there are farms like this in lots of places. I know Annie Link and her husband have one near Grand Rapids. Dee Dee Darden's just down in Smithfield area, Virginia and stuff. There's so many of these kinds of farms. I think very few people have had an opportunity to really get into much of the story, because you're usually busy with kids and busy with whatever the entertainment part is. So I appreciate your kind of peeling it back a little bit and having this conversation so our listeners can learn a little bit more about it. I want to make sure they know where to find you, and I'm thinking your website,
the website is mapletreefarmva.com. And that is for the Manger Agritainment. If you want to get this creepy part, it's Haunted Hollow VA. We were talking about people coming out and enjoying. We are always so thrilled, but you will see them walk in and they're looking all around, and there's this little bit of anxiousness about them. And by the time they're leaving, their shoulders are dropped, they've relaxed. You see them, they'll just sit down and watch. They can see the kids all wherever they run. We've got hay bales for them to jump on, tubes for them to go through. Very simple stuff. We do have a moo bounce. Very simple stuff, but you can see them come in anxious, but you can see them leaving relaxed. And they will spend hours here just letting the kids run.
Yeah. Well, it's nicely put together in that you have a lot of fencing in different places. So it's you've got acres and acres, but they're in different fenced sections, but it doesn't look closed in. So you've got enough running room and then enough structure to it that parents don't have to wonder where their kids have gotten off to too badly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I'm so excited I was able to come out, and what a gorgeous day. People are going to look at these pictures and say, of course, this is the place to be on a Friday afternoon.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for visiting. It's good to see you in person.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that interview and As always, we would love for you to take time, if you enjoyed it, leave a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, whatever service it is that you use, so that more podcast listeners will see this show up as an option as related to the podcast they enjoy. It seems odd, but it really can help a show out.
Please go by and check groundedbythefarm.com. You'll see not only some photos and videos to go with this story, but you'll get our entire catalog. There's a lot of videos and things, and there's one page there. You can find it up at the top of the navigation bar on your favorite foods. Thanks, and we'll be back here again in 2 weeks with Grounded by the Farm.